Hello souls and demons, and welcome back to the portal. Today we have 8 Glitch in the Matrix stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy these true stories. Same stuff, different day. On March the 23rd, 2020, I delivered to a customer. I'm a truck driver. I'm required to be on the docks of my customer to confirm my deliveries. About halfway through the delivery, the receiver turns to the forklift driver and says to him, "Hey, I forgot to tell you, but I cooked for my daughter last night. She was in town, so I had the pleasure to cook for her." The forklift driver replied, "Oh yeah, that's great. What did you cook for her?" "I cooked stuffed bell peppers. My daughter loves stuffed bell peppers." Meanwhile, at the opposite end of the dock, an argument is getting heated by a couple of younger employees. It's getting bad enough that it takes the 3 of our attention away from their conversation and our work. So I ask, "Where's the supervisor?" In which the receiver replies, "He's not going to do anything. I don't know how he got the job." To this, the forklift driver says, "I'm just glad that I'm nearing retirement. This time next year, I'll be at home and not fooling with any of this." The next time I deliver to this customer is August 10th, 2020. About halfway through the load, the receiver says, "Hey." At this point, I get a very euphoric deja vu feeling. "I forgot to tell you, but I cooked for my daughter last night." I knew she was going to say that. I know what the forklift driver's response was going to be. It played out exactly the way it played out on March 23rd. Exactly. Even the argument at the opposite end of the dock. It was the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. I've had deja vu. That seems like you've been there before, but you don't know the turnout. It feels familiar after it's taken place, but this specific moment, this was not deja vu. This was a replay. Facial expressions, responses about the supervisor in retirement. I almost wanted to change my question about the supervisor, but I decided not to. I decided to let it play out. But I knew about the stuffed bell peppers as soon as the receiver said, "Hey." Any thoughts? My dead fish appeared back in my tank alive. One of my fish got sick and died overnight 2 days ago. I removed him from the tank and put him in a separate tank so when he died, the other fish wouldn't eat him and possibly catch what he had. I had 3 of these kind of fish in the tank, including him. He was the smallest and was more maroon than the bright red of the other 2. After he died, I flushed him, playing Amazing Grace and all that, then went to work. When I came home that night, he was back in the tank, looking just fine as always. I called my sister into the room and had her look at him, and she knew that I flushed him this morning since she was in the bathroom when I flushed him. Eventually went to bed, and in the morning he was gone again. But my sister agrees that she saw him too. On repeat. Used to work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in a hospital as a telemetry tech. You know the heart monitor they put people on with the squiggly lines? Those lines mean something, and there's someone watching them remotely every minute of the everyday. Well, this remote telemetry room was on the 5th floor all by its lonesome, with big westward-facing windows. It had a beautiful view of downtown with the Rocky Mountains standing majestic in the background and the sun setting behind all of that. I had a habit of watching the sunset. On this particular night, I was doing just that, standing in my window watching the sunset. As I watched, I noticed a woman leaving the hospital's main doors. She was wearing dark denim jeans, a red chunky knit sweater, and long black tweed coat. She had mid-length brunette hair styled down. She was drinking out of a styrofoam cup while she walked. As she tipped her cup upward, the ice fell out all over her face and chest. She stopped, brushed the ice off of her sweater and out of her hair, then kept walking, eventually coming to a black Passat that she got into and, after a few moments, took off. Immediately after pulling out of the parking lot, the phone rings. Someone needs labels for a patient. This task only takes a couple of mouse clicks, thus taking maybe 1.5 to 2 minutes to complete. Labels printed, I turn back around to continue enjoying the sunset. Then that exact same scene I just described unfolds again. Right before my very eyes. Everything. Every moment, every second identical to the first instance. Upon realizing this, I got chills and a kind of mental daze for a couple seconds. Every time I think of the story, I still get chills. Opened then unopened? So this morning I stopped by the grocery store on my way back to work to pick up some snacks for later on. I picked up a 6-pack of pickled sausages, my favorite, and some chips and proceeded to self-checkout. After scanning my bag of chips, I noticed the sausage carton was kind of ripped open, and I vividly remember checking it out to make sure all 6 were still in there, and nobody took one out. They were all accounted for and I said whatever. I proceeded to head to work. So when I get to work, I take my snacks out and sit them down on my desk when I notice that the carton of sausages is fully sealed, and there is no rip whatsoever. I know it's minor compared to some of these other glitches, but I still think it's a bit strange. Especially since I remember checking out the carton for stolen wieners. Met a guy at uni. We knew each other, but we didn't. Okay, so I know compared to other people's stories on the sub, this isn't really spectacular. But it's something that really bothers me and no one else seems interested, so I figured I'd share it here. So this happened the past September when I moved across country for uni. This is important since I don't know many people from South UK as I've lived my entire life in the North, and have only come down south for holidays or conventions before now. Early on, I met a few people on my course, and we decided to go to the local Spoons pub chain and meet with a few other people. When we got there, we sat down and chatted for a while before the others arrive, and one guy catches my eye. Not because he was particularly attractive or anything, but because he seemed really familiar. Him and the others sat down and introduced themselves, and we all started to get to know each other. I didn't recognize his name, it's pretty common, but I don't know anyone my age with that name. But figured I'd just forgotten because I'm rubbish with names. I went to talk to him. I introduced myself and told him he seemed familiar. And he agreed he recognized me, and we spent a while trying to figure out where we knew each other from, and couldn't work it out. He even commented that I'd lost weight since we last saw each other, and no one else in my new friend group knew I'd lost a substantial amount of weight the 2 years leading up to the move south. He wasn't associated with any of the groups I was that brought me to the south before, and he'd never been up north in his life. It was weird to say the least. We're both sat there convinced we know each other, but unable to pinpoint how. Then it hits me. The southern county he's from is apparently the same one my dad is from. I've never met the man, and my mom's side of the family have very little info on him. So maybe we're related. I've heard stories of his strange siblings meeting and having things like this happen, and even falling in love because they know they share a bond but don't know they're related. So I asked if his surname was the same as my dad's. I don't carry that name, I have my mom's, and explained that apparently my dad is from the same area as him. That's when he drops the bomb that he's originally from Germany and his whole family were born there, and he only moved to the UK with his grandparents when he was around 5. So there's no way we're related. We're both left entirely stumped and confused and utterly convinced that we know each other but have no idea how. We've ended up pretty good friends through uni as we're on the same course and live in the same building, and so spent a lot of time together before COVID. We haven't talked much about this since the first week or so that we met, and over time that weird feeling of familiarity has disappeared. But it still seems so odd to me that we were both convinced we knew each other. I can't decide whether this is some glitch in the matrix that we were going to meet and become close friends, or if it's related to the past life phenomenon. Honestly, I'm just confused and would appreciate any input people have. Jogger and Pink. A month ago, I was driving to go meet some friends for lunch. I pulled up at a set of lights and looked to my left and noticed a rather attractive blonde in a pink singlet rounding a tree to my left. I looked back at the lights, still red, so thought why not look again, and there she was rounding the same tree the same way. It was only 2 seconds and not enough time to run around the tree and start running up the hill where I first saw her. A bit odd, but I didn't think too much of it until yesterday when I was taking the same road, pulled up at the same lights, and a good-sized branch broke off from the same tree and landed right in front of my car, triggering the memory. Laptop background glitch. The weirdest thing happened to me at work today. 3 weeks ago, I built my friend a computer. He's an older guy and not very tech savvy, so when I dropped it off, I helped him set it up and get all of his old files moved over. I've built computers for friends before, including him, and followed all the basic steps. Assembling parts, clean install of Windows with his own user key, his desired username and password, and pre-install some of the programs he frequently used. 2 days ago, I went back over to his house on my lunch break because he was having some issues getting his printer hooked up. It takes about 5 minutes to get it fixed and I'm on my way. Today when I get to work, I open my laptop, opened Firefox and answered a few emails, and then I noticed the taskbar at the bottom of the screen changed color. I figured a Windows update had reverted it to the default, but when I closed my browser, my background had changed. The image had changed from solid black to the very same photo that was the background on my friend's computer the day prior. A photo I did not have on my computer, as it was a photo of him at an event from roughly 10 years ago, prior to when I met him. I have no idea how that happened, as our devices aren't linked in any way, short of being connected to the same Wi-Fi while I was assembling it and running diagnostic checks. Any thoughts? I glitched a silent motorcycle. A few months back, the wife and I went to a friend's to give her a birthday gift and do some social distance catching up in her backyard. After some time, my wife decided to send me back home to grab a craft beer for her friends to try. I drive home, gather the things, and head back. It's on the drive back that I encounter the glitch. I'm cutting through the neighborhood, have the window down as I was smoking a cigarette. I didn't have the radio on, and the neighborhood was quiet. I'm getting close to a left turn I had to make, when I notice a single headlight coming towards my direction. As the headlight gets closer, I make out that it's a motorcycle, a big one like a Harley. When I turn on my signal about 15-ish feet from the street I was going to turn on, the motorcycle turns onto that same street. I see a good profile of the bike and rider. Big bike, black helmet, black leather jacket, blue jeans. I make my turn about 10 to 15 seconds after the motorcycle had. Only the motorcycle along with the rider are just gone. They hadn't parked on the side of the road or in any of the driveways on either side of the street. The closest street to turn down was a good 100 and 150 yards ahead, and no way the bike could have made it there in time. I haven't looked to see if any of the garage doors were in the process of shutting, and none were. My first thought was that the rider had to have hauled ass and turned. My second thought was that doing so would have made a ton of noise, and I would have heard that. My third thought weirded me out, because I didn't hear a thing as the bike was approaching or when it made the turn.